One big talk of the town right now regarding Pokemon cards, especially in this market, is illustration rares from the Scarlet and Violet era. Now, I prefer a lot of illustration rares than I do special illustration rares, and actually, to be honest, there's a lot, okay? There is like 219 illustration rares currently. Of course, more is coming out in future sets that are still to be released. So right now, we'll be looking at the market over on TCG Player and also on PokeJace.io to see what has been going on for some of the biggest illustration rares out there. Let's get into it. Okay, illustration rare time. We looked on TCG Player and basically went illustration rare, saw it, and yeah, there's a lot. 219 of them, and it's very, very expensive. And we're going through like the top like 20. Let's go through like, well, pretty much everything on this page. Let's go through everything on this page. So first things first, we're going to look at the Magikarp, which is the most expensive illustration rare from Paldea Evolved. We are looking at a price of $250. This card is just phenomenal, right? I mean, it's 50% increase in 3 months. We go back over the past year and we can see an increase of 275%. That is next level for this fish. I remember when this was going for less than the Iono, and everyone's like, oh, this is a pretty impressive illustration rare. I mean, now it is up there as one of the most expensive cards in the whole of the Scarlet and Violet era. And when we look on PokeJace.io at this card, we can see here, okay, that the market price ranges a little bit between eBay and TCG Player and Card Market, but it's the graded price. Now, there's one thing we'll get into today is about the graded value of a lot of these illustration rares. So we take a look at this. It is 1.5k in a PSA 10. So if you are lucky enough to pull this card and then to get it graded and come back at 10, this is insane for this card to go for that much. I mean, we go back like 6 months, right? This card in a PSA 10 was $600. It's just madness. It's just absolute madness. I mean, people love this artwork. It is a big fan favorite card. Paldea Evolved, in my opinion, is a very, very good set. I've highly rated it from the get-go, really. And yeah, it's going from strength to strength, and this is just one of them. Okay, next illustration rare is the Groudon, which is the second most expensive illustration rare in the Scarlet and Violet era, and it's also the most expensive card from Paradox Rift. Now, my boy Groudon has been doing really well. Okay, $100, it is now smashing it, up 68% over the past 3 months, and up 302% over the past year. Now, Paradox Rift has been doing incredibly well, not just sealed, but a lot of the cards in the set, there's a lot of illustration rares as well, have just been climbing and gaining more and more value, and it's really good, right? Long term, this is going to be very, very good. And the Groudon, my boy Groudon, gaining a 302% increase in a year is absolutely incredible. And yeah, beautiful artwork, by the way. Like the artwork for this, I saw it and I was like, man, this is sweet. So yeah, very, very cool card. Take a look at Groudon, about $100 raw, as we've seen across all the markets. But then in the PSA 10, nowhere near as much as the Magikarp, but $400. Very impressive, by the way. I mean, if we look at the past 6 months, it was 180, did dip to around 160, and then pretty much doubled, more than doubled, in fact, in price, which is very, very good. PSA 9, I mean, you break even nowadays with a PSA 9. It's not like you actually gain any value from grading in a PSA 9, which is a shame. But yeah, 10 is where it's at for the big boy. Even $400 is very, very impressive. Next up, we got the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade. In my opinion, one of the best Eevee arts ever released. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Twilight Masquerade, but there is some very good, strong performing cards in it, and the set's doing very well anyway. And this is a beautiful Eevee. I mean, I managed to get, I think I got 2 in my collection. I'm going to send them both off to get graded, and hopefully they do come back 10s, because that'd be sweet. But raw, we're looking at $96. It did actually break 100, and it's just dipped a little bit recently, but gone up 71% over the past year. Well, set hasn't really been out a whole year, but still a 280% increase is, well, just next level, right? It's just absolutely incredible. Beautiful artwork, especially at the moment with the big buzz around Eevee cards and evolutions. A card like this is going to do very, very well. Now, when we look at the Eevee here, pretty much average across the markets. And then we got the graded price. The graded price is actually less than the Groudon. Groudon was just over 400. We're looking at 330. And it's actually dipping a little bit. A lot more of this has been graded just across the board, but definitely in a 10. I did reach a high of about 350-ish. 360, so it's dropped a little bit recently, but still coming from the lows of about 140 or 135. Very, very impressive. So yeah, Eevee has been doing very well, and even when we look at the raw price of this, I mean, we can see that it's been going up quite a bit, especially with the market value as well. TCG player in the orange and the blue is like the market value. Pretty much neck and neck the whole way, which is pretty good to see. Up next, we got the Drowzee. Everybody is talking about this card recently, mainly because this insane price hike, right? Let's look at this. It's $82. In the past 3 months, it's gone up nearly 500%. Over the past year, this card has gone up 1,638%. This, yes, you can see it here, was like a $4 to $5 card, and now we're looking at $82. Over the past week, when was it? So it was at $36 on the 15th of Feb. It took less than a week, literally 3 days, to jump up from a $35 card to an $85 card. I mean, that is just bonkers. And as you can see, you know, lots of sales have happened, right? So you had about 4, 10 roughly cards sold in 20 odd, and then bang, a huge amount. I mean, I don't know if we can see latest sales. Did anybody buy like a ton of them? 8 sold there. Quite a hefty amount. But no, just, I mean, lots of singles, you know, so no real like, oh no, hang on, these are all on the 19th. Hang on, let's go back. Where was it? The 15th, right? So we go back to the 15th, where the last, like, before the price hike, all of these sales were around the $30 to $40 range. Pretty much across the board in all of them at $30 to $40. You saw a couple go for like maybe $50, you know, a little bit higher. But it's still around $40. And then you had some Japanese sales happen. And then it started to increase to around $50 on the $55 on the 17th. And then you had 4 sold there. And again, it started to creep up. And then bang, one randomly sold for $85. And then you still had some more around $50. And then a whole bunch more bought at a lower price. More bought at a lower price. And it started to trickle up a little bit. So we look around, you know, $60 to $70, $50 here and there. And then you start to see some more bigger purchases being made. But pretty much just a lot of people jumping on this bandwagon for the Drowzee card. So yeah, doing incredibly well. When we look at the other market price, look at the graded price. $632 in a 10. So yeah, crazy stuff. If we look at the market price, okay, for this one, so we get rid of the graded prices. So as you can see here, we got the blue, which is the average market price across all the other markets, and orange is TCG player. So actually the market price of the Drowzee is $40. But for some reason, something's happened on TCG player where it's caused the card to more than double in value. Whereas the rest of the market is like, what's going on? I did see the other day, someone over here in the UK selling this for £90. It just seems dumb, in my opinion. Absolute madness. Next up, we got the Squirrel from Stellar Crown. This one's been doing really well as well. I mean, we're looking at about $73-ish. Has dropped a little bit from an all-time high of 80, but still going up 61% in the past 3 months is very impressive. And over the past year, well, since its release, it's gone up around about 50%. Don't forget, Stellar Crown hasn't actually been out that long. And it's doing really well. I mean, I would expect this to become the most expensive card in Stellar Crown. Beautiful artwork, by the way. Like, just the Squirrel, the Bulbasaur, and the Charmander together. Just looks absolutely incredible. But yeah, this one is doing really, really well. And I do expect it to continue to do well in the future. When we look at the other market price and the graded price of Squirrel, we're looking roughly around that $70 range across all the markets. And then eBay, nearly $300 in a PSA 10. I mean, it was $300 at one point, or $320. Then it did dip to around about 180-ish, and then back up to now 300, which is very, very impressive. A lot of this has been graded as well. Nearly as many 10s as there are 9s, which, you know, is actually quite interesting. Bearing in mind a 9 only gives you a little bit of extra value, but not a huge amount. Next up, we got the Bulbasaur, also from Stellar Crown. Very adorable. We just looked at, obviously, the Squirrel, and the Bulbasaur as well is doing very, very well at $62. I've seen a little bit of a dip, but it's starting to bounce back up. Of course, since the release of this set, it's gone up by 24%. So not an insane amount, but over the past 3 months has gone up 44%, so which is pretty impressive. So yeah, very cool card. Stellar Crown, like the Squirrel, I think these two are just beautiful, right? And I think they'll do very well in the future, overtaking the Terrapagos. Then we look at the average market value of this is around $60-ish. 242 in a 10. Still a lot graded and a lot got a 10, to be fair. So, you know, we're looking at a little bit of extra value, not much there on a 9, but that 10 seeing a 242, and that did actually dip. I mean, it was around the same when it first came out, and then it did dip around that 160-ish, and it's bounced back up quite nicely. So again, another good performing card. Next up, we got the Persian from Shroud of Fable, which seems to be like the talk of the town recently. I think it's mainly because no one can get hold of anything else, so everyone's buying Shroud of Fable. This card's got up 162%, has dropped a little bit where it was up 230%. Over the past year, of course, hasn't been out a year, but it's up 60% overall since release. So yeah, very, very impressive card. I mean, when I saw this, I was like, there's no way this isn't going to be like a top 3 card of the set. And you had trainer cards that were holding the top spot for the longest time. It's nice that we do get a really sweet looking illustration rare. I do expect this to continue to climb, especially with the hype around Team Rocket at the moment. So yeah, keep an eye on this one. I think Shroud of Fable, I wouldn't say it's slept on, but it is definitely one that people don't really care about that much, but still has very valuable cards in it. And when we look at the average market price of Persian, we're looking around about $60-ish. 384 in a 10, very impressive. Still not a huge amount graded, just across the board, compared to some of the other cards we've looked at, but still very, very good, especially hitting an all-time low around $100 in a PSA 10. The fact that it's nearly quadrupled in value is absolute insanity. So yeah, this is a really good one. Next up, we've got the Charmander from 151. I mean, cards are booming in 151. They're doing so well. Bear in mind how much the set was around and opened. $60 raw. I mean, this one hasn't really seen like just this sharp boom spike. It's just been gradual over time. Over the past 3 months, got up by 33%. Over the past year, it's got up by 100%. But that is just a steady climbing growth over the past year, whereas all the others has been going along a little bit and then a big bang. When we look at the average market price, around $60-ish, give or take $55, $60. 282 in a 10, with 3,500 graded. Then look how many else has been graded. A lot of 9s that are sat around with this card. Yeah, 300 in a PSA 10 is, again, ridiculously good, especially for an illustration rare. And again, the all-time high graded was earlier on, back end of last year, 310, and it is slowly trickling its way back up, of course. And then when we look at the normal pricing, we got the market price in the blue, TCG player in the orange. TCG player is outpacing the current market as well, so that's another interesting thing to look out for. Then we got the Squirrel again, another big illustration rare from 151, doing incredibly well, 24% gain in the past 3 months. Over the past year, 75% increase, which is very, very impressive. My favorite illustration rare out of all of the 151 illustration rares, Squirrel, absolutely love it. Doing very well though, again, over $50 is very, very impressive, especially a year ago, you could have picked up for less than 25. So yeah, it's climbed steadily, not a big, huge jump. When we look at the Squirrel, average market price, yeah, is around $50-ish, 205 in a 10, so nowhere near as high as the Charmander. But again, a huge amount graded for this card, and pretty much stayed quite consistent. I did average a high of 220, so it has been dropping ever so slightly in a 10, but nothing like the others where they just spike up massively. This has just been a steady road for the Squirrel. Then we've got the Gastly, of course, coming in at $52 from Temporal Forces. Huge card in my opinion, absolutely amazing artwork. 100% gain in 3 months since the release of Temporal. $216. This is such a huge illustration rare. I believe it was the most expensive illustration rare in Temporal Forces, pretty much from the release. It was nice to see it continuing to go up in this trend, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, definitely making some pretty insane gains since its release. So when we look at the average market price of this, it's around $50 raw, and yeah, 330 in a 10. Absolutely bonkers. I mean, it still has over 2,000 graded in the 10 as well, whereas the 9 is 66. Not that bad, but not great. And then, yes, it was 140, dipped to a low around 115, and then it's shot up recently to around $330, which is very, very impressive. For a $50 card, that's an insane return from a PSA 10. But a last quick look at some of the others here. I mean, we've got the Raichu here at $51 from Paldea Evolved. Again, Paldea Evolved doing insanely well. The Bulbasaur alongside the others in 151, we're looking around $49, so pushing nearly 50. Again, another Paldea Evolved. We got the Tyranitar coming in at $46. Houndoom, a big climber in Shroud of Fable, reaching $55. Trailing the Persian pretty well there. Again, another Shrouded Fable, which is the Duskull. Then we've got the Charmeleon from 151, sitting at $44/$45. The Baxcalibur, another Paldea Evolved, at $44. This one's been under the radar. I'm going to quickly look at this one. Okay, we have a quick look, and we can see what happened here. Up 310% over the past 3 months. Over the past year, 310%. I mean, it's just sat pretty around $10 for the longest time, and then recently, boom, it is just absolutely gone crazy, literally in the last couple of days. So yeah, big card there. Latios sitting around 43. That really hasn't really moved much. Pikachu, $40, not too bad. Wartortle, 151, 37. Metagross, another big climber, coming in at 36. Ceruledge been climbing steadily at around 36. The Marill, again, another Paldea Evolved, big climber, doing very well. And then the Rolt's coming in at 35 from Scarlet Violet base. Overall, it's insanity, right? Seeing some of these cards shoot up in price, in my opinion, is incredible. I'm happy we're getting illustration rares back again after Prismatic Evolutions. But yeah, look, I mean, we're seeing some real big gains happening, especially in the graded space. So there you have it, guys. That's what's been going on with the illustration rares in Scarlet and Violet. Huge graded returns, raw prices climbing, very impressive. And it seems to be a lot of the same sets, right? 151, Paldea Evolved, Shrouded Fable, like, you know, Stellar Crown. There is a lot, you know, across the board. I mean, Paradox Rift is another good one. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really getting anything from like Obsidian, although with Obsidian, the Ninetales is doing really well as well. So yeah, across the board, pretty much all the illustration rares going up. Of course, the Drowzee was the big talk of the town recently. But yeah, I would say now is a great time to get some of these before they continue to keep going up. And if you do have them graded, you're doing pretty well if they do come back at 10. If you made this far in the video and you've enjoyed it, make sure to smash the like button and make sure to subscribe for more Pokemon content. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments of the current illustration rare boom. Do you think Drowzee's worth it at $80 a piece? That is impressive. I can't lie on that one. And the Magikarp, of course, is the top dog at like $250 and over, what, nearly 1.5k in a PSA 10, which is just next level stuff going on there. That's it from me, guys, in today's video. For more Pokemon content, make sure to click the video on the screen, and of course, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are legends, and I'll see you in the next one.